This episode of Juicy Scoop is sponsored by Booking.com. So I love using Booking.com. You know, I travel a lot, but I travel doing different things. And Booking.com has a huge variety of options from hotels to vacation rentals, and I'm always able to find something that fits my specific needs. I found that Booking.com has something for everyone. No matter who you are, Booking.com helps you find the stay that's ridiculously right for you. Find exactly what you're booking for on Booking.com, booking.yeah.
Heather McDonald has got the juiciest scoop. When you're on the road, when you're on the go, Juicy Scoop is the show to know. She talks Hollywood tales, her real life Mr. Segment serial data, and serial sister. You'll be addicted and addicted fast to the #1 tabloid real life podcast. Listen in, listen up. Woo woo. Heather McDonald, Juicy Scoop.
Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. We are going to get into it because I have a big podcaster himself. He is a husband, a loving father, a former bachelor, and host of the Viall Files, Nick Viall.
You overemphasized again.
Am I saying it wrong or right?
No, you said it right, but
Viall.
I don't emphasize
Viall
it.
Files.
No, it's fine. Viall Files.
We've known each other for a really long time.
I was thinking about that so long.
And when we go to those little parties, we do seek each other out. And it is fun to like have a couple snarky bullshit moments.
It is fun. I will say to your audience, Heather is like, I'm actually a bit of an introvert when I go to these parties. Natalie is definitely like helps me out. And Heather makes it, every time I see Heather, it's like, oh my God, thank God Heather's here. Because Heather always comes up to us. She's always incredibly approachable. She's full of smiles. It really it's really always great to see you. We don't see each other all that much, but it's always like at some...
Like Us Weekly or like
reality TV party.
At the Kathy Hilton Christmas party.
Oh my God, the Kathy Hilton Christmas party. Heather's always she's always very welcoming and great.
Yes.
I always love picking
by the
her
way,
brain.
that party brought a lot of controversy because that was when...
That was the James.
That was the DJ James Kennedy, and I just saw he's back. He's got a show in like a week.
I hate that.
In Vegas. You hate that for him?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's terrible.
Well,
yeah.
She did break up with him.
I mean, listen, I think it was one of those things. Like, I talked to him that night. I got to know James,
and just
prior to that.
reminded people, after the party, he was arrested for domestic violence. However, they have dropped the charges, and he and his girlfriend have since broken up.
Yes. The alleged incident was that he picked her up and threw her across the room.
And she's a very thin, little, cute thing.
Yeah.
So,
and then when she put out her statement, it was very carefully worded, I was never hurt. It wasn't like that didn't happen, or it wasn't like I wasn't thrown up or picked up. But I also for me, it was more, I had gotten to know James since I started watching Vanderpump, like most, not like a lot of people. I started with Scandival and got to know some of the cast, and I work with Katie Maloney and things like that. And James seemed like a nice guy, and we got to know Allie, and there was always these hints of, rumors about James's behavior in the past and not being a Vanderpump historian at the time or having watched old episodes. I didn't know much about it. And then
with the Kristen Doty.
With the Kristen Doty stuff. And
who he dated prior to Allie. And there was stuff with Rachel Raquel.
Yeah.
But every time I would see him at parties and stuff, he was a total delight.
Yeah.
And he was total delight. And I'd seen him just previously with her at the ball, the Vanderpump dog ball, and then saw him there. And, he was a little, what I didn't realize at the time, I was with my sister. She was my plus one. And he told us about all the stuff they had going on. And they just found out that this cast, he's not coming back. And he's not part of the Valley, and he's not coming back to the Vanderpump. So I was like, how are you feeling? You should be so grateful. You're one of the few people that has a full-blown other career set.
Yeah, really made it.
Yeah, and he was like, oh my God, I've got all these shows in the works, and I got da-da-da-da-da. And he was, listing all the stuff he had going on, which I was like, great. My sister thought it was a little braggadocious. I did not. I'm like, you got fired from a job you had for 10 years, you want to build your, it's pretty big of a deal. You know, like I get how this can be pretty devastating.
That night
yeah.
that he got arrested, I was talking, me and Natalie and Allie and James were talking, and I was saying to him, I'm like, man, like, you know, compared to all your cast, you should be really proud of what you've been able to do. Like, holy cow, like that's what I
really
was something,
saying.
Man. He performed at Coachella. Like he really had separated himself and built and established a legitimate career outside of just being a cast member on reality TV. And
I love the music. And he was like, you know, he's been looking good, buffed out and grown up. And did I think he was drinking that night? Yeah, I thought he was having drinks. I wasn't looking at his drink or anything. I didn't know where people are with California sobriety or what works and what doesn't. But then later on, when this all happened, my sister said, you know, about an hour after we had a conversation with him, he came back up to us, but someone started talking to me. And then he went and told her all the same stuff he had told me. He told us just together an hour prior.
Oh, he's blacked out.
So she was like, you know, my sister's a, you know, DUI defense attorney. So she was like, yeah, he was, in her opinion, which is not a big deal. We're at a Christmas party. It's not a big deal to have drinks. Everyone's doing Ubers. It's not a big deal. But then to hear that incident happened, you're like, and whatever Allie decided, I think sometimes people, if they're able to feel like they can freely get away from this person, it is their decision to go, you know what, I don't want to go through this. I don't want to go through any kind of trial. I don't want to be known as the girl that was, you know, abused or whatever. So I respect whatever she said, and the police and, you know, prosecutors and everybody, they have all the evidence. We don't, to accept that this is what it is. But he is back and he's doing another DJ show.
I mean, I couldn't agree more about Allie. Like, I don't know what it's like to be in her position. I empathize completely. It's never easy, like, to come forward, you know, especially for public figures, because regardless of what you think about them, he has a fan base, he has an audience, he has millions of followers. Like, it can be brutal coming forward. I'm just like so over the whole, like, I don't give a shit if James Kennedy was drunk that night or not drinking or drinking.
Right.
Like, I don't give a fuck, you know? And I'm just so tired of this like narrative that, oh, he has a drinking problem. No, like there's a lot of people have drinking problems and they don't like, they're not physically violent or abusive, or they don't have a reputation or a checkered past with all of their exes that they've done allegedly a variety of things where they've, you know, were physically aggressive. And like, there's clearly a pattern. And since his arrest, I had talked more with Kristen Doty, and like, I feel comfortable saying he's an absolute piece of shit.
Okay.
And I think Lisa Vanderpump is an absolute, like, you know, I think she should be ashamed of herself for covering James all these years. And I think the way she has handled this and her statement she like came out with a statement afterwards. First she said nothing, and then she finally said something. And it was this like, I forgot exactly what her statement was, but it was like, I thought it was really icky. And just, I thought it was gross. I mean, she's clearly, you know, I've met Lisa once when I did her podcast, when she had a podcast long ago, and she was very gracious, and I went to her house and she gave me the tour of the villa, and like as I was leaving, James came in. Like they're very tight.
Yes.
Like she's friends with his mom, and I get it, whatever, but like she has covered for that guy for far too long, and I think he's a huge piece of shit.
Yes, and I can see, I totally agree. I mean, it's part of an empire. It's also a mother-son kind of a, you know, connection. But I mean, we could go through it all. But, you know, I understand why also the producers are just like, let's make everyone forget this. Because at first, when they obviously were going to break up, I was like, is she going to go get a job selling, you know, goat cheese balls, you know, Allie, and get on the new cast? And then I thought, no, the producers don't want us to remember anything about this, because this is dark. This isn't fun. This isn't, you know, even juicy, like fucking your girlfriend's best friend scandal.
Sure.
This is, there's nothing juicy about it. We don't want to see it. And it's reared its ugly. Domestic abuse has reared its head in a few storylines over the years throughout Housewives and Bravo shows. And they know it's just not something they want to discuss. But since we're talking about Vanderpump, Jax Taylor did just come forth and said he is 83 days sober from cocaine and alcohol, and that he has had a cocaine issue for 20 years of his life. And he's gone on and off of it, and, you know, viewers could tell and this and that. But he really he couldn't do cocaine without drinking. So with getting rid of the cocaine, he also wants to get rid of the drinking. And he had told me years ago, like, I'm into smoking pot now and that chills me out and I'm better and I'm not so crazy. I have heard from many people in the last few years that there were bags of cocaine found and this and stuff with, you know, when now they are parents, like
Sure.
It make up the whole thing of like, oh my God, someone little kid thinks it's a sugar. I don't know. I'm just saying that would really turn you off to want to hang out with those people, whatever, if that was the case. So it's like, but good for him.
Sure.
That he's, but he got real mad at me recently because I had Lala on.
He's been mad at me since 2017.
Oh, really? Well, he's another one that I always talk to. He's come on the show. His sister's a juicy scooper. I want to give this guy benefit of the doubt, but I think we all know, like, you know, who he really is. Very happy for Brittany. But anyway, Lala came on the show and she told me told Juicy Scoopers what was really going on with them. And, you know, that Brittany does everything and all this stuff. And that was the clip that was cut. And it went up. And he immediately texted me just like I can't believe you're doing this and you're a mother and my child's going to have to see this and I'm there with my kid every day, da 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 da. And I was like, again.
That's rich coming from him.
Yeah. But I was like, you know what? My initial thought was this clip is going to be a problem for Brittany. So I was like, done. I'm removing it. Like, sure. I'm removing the clip. I don't want to cause problem with you and Brittany. Brittany reaches out to me and she's like, I mean, it was texted, but I just in her voice, but she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Lala, tell me what happened.
It's pretty good.
She is telling you the truth. Ha ha. Jax is crazy. That is not true. He has not done this. He has not called me. He did not say that because he goes, Brittany and I talked about this today and da da da. And she was like, that is not true. And I was like, whatever. Again, one clip, one thing is not going to break or make my career. And if it's going to cause problems or give me anxiety because I'm going to run into him at the next thing, I took it down. I'm like, I'm taking it down. That's it. I mean, I hope that they can co-parent. I hope he stays sober, whatever. But I am very happy she's single.
I'm glad she's away from him and happy.
Yeah.
You know Jax better than I do. When I was The Bachelor, long time ago.
Yes. What year were you The Bachelor?
I was filmed at the end of 2016. It was airing in the beginning of 2017.
Okay.
So I met him when it was airing.
Yes.
I was at that point engaged and no one knew about it, right? So I had to be very careful about who I'm standing next to.
Right.
I got invited to some bar opening in San Diego with a friend, and Jax and Brittany were there. And they came up to me very graciously. Brittany, and Jax was actually very nice, right?
Yeah.
And I knew who he was. Like at that, I didn't know much about Vanderpump. I knew who he was. I knew about his reputation, right? He was very, kind of known as the toxic guy, right?
Right.
And so I took a picture with Brittany, and then Jax was like, hey, can I get one? I was like, I'd rather not, man. And because at that time, I'm thinking, I don't need a picture with Jax Taylor as the Bachelor at the club with Jax Taylor. I'm like, I need to, I'm an engaged man at the time, but no one knows that. Again, the season's filming, and I was like,
oh, wow.
And he was
the season was done filming, but it was airing.
It was airing.
So
no one knew about my relationship status. Obviously, it was being speculated, and I was, at that time, it was like, it would have been like me taking a picture of Tom Sandoval during Scandival.
Right, yeah.
That's how it felt. And I was just like, yeah, no, I'm good,
I did take a picture with Tom Sandoval during Scandival.
I
did. Because I knew him, and then somebody said, it was at the Jax opening, and I was talking to him, and I was just kind of like, what are you going to do about this lawsuit, her suing you for this? And we were sort of talking about that, because the lawsuit stuff always intrigues me, right? and she was suing him for, spreading the photos of
Raquel, the thing that's going on.
Yeah, I think it's still going on. And I was like, what? So we talked a little bit about that, which was kind of, juicy and what his thoughts were. And then someone came up and they're like, can we get a photo? And I did. And I'm like, hey, again, he's not Harvey Weinstein. And I've taken photos with him before. But of course, there were some little things. But in your case,
it had more to do with like my relationship status.
Right. And the TV show. Like, I think if you would have just said, actually, now that I thought about it, I probably shouldn't be taking photos with anyone. Maybe that would have been the better thing to say. But what did you say?
I think it was more like, I just like want to be careful about like being out at the club or something.
Well,
I tried to be very nice, but he was not happy.
He took offense.
Oh yeah. He went on like a bunch of podcasts, or I don't know, did some interviews, talked some shit. And then during Scandival, I was like, oh, maybe I'll have like, see what Jax is saying. And I went to like DM him to see if he wanted to come on and realize I'm blocked.
Oh.
Which I thought was great, since I was like the first time I'd ever like even went to his page in 7 years. But
right. Well,
turns out I'm blocked.
I appreciate the art of blocking.
Sure.
Because I have definitely blocked a lot of people. And sometimes I think, oh, I'm kind of over it now and my life is pretty great. Should I let these fuckers see it? And then I look at how many people I've blocked and I'm like, oh, I don't even know where to begin. And I don't want to unblock and have it.
Sure.
And then have like the 90% of the weird like bot trolls start up again. So I'm like, whatever. If someone really wants to like reconnect, then they should try to text or email me. But who cares? They probably don't care. They're probably over me too.
I have some empathy for Tom Sandoval.
Yeah, you do. Let's hear it.
I think Jax Taylor has no moral compass. Like, I don't even know if he knows the difference between right or wrong. Like, I can't diagnose him or anything, but like, I don't think he even cares, really. I think he just cares about Jax. I think Tom is incredibly self-centered and selfish. And, I'm sure like many of us have narcissistic personalities and blah, 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 blah. But like, Tom has a moral compass. It's different than maybe anyone on this earth. But like, he does things that he believes are like right and wrong, Like, I think a lot of people disagree with what his moral compass is, but I think he really wants to be a good guy. I think that's his desire to not be a piece of shit is somewhere inside Tom Sandoval, and I think Jax Taylor, it doesn't register. And I've just gotten to know him. I was on Special Forces with him.
You Tom Sandoval.
Yeah. I mean, I essentially lived with him for a week in a very intense environment.
Okay.
So he's a unique guy, but like he's not evil. He's not bad, and he's not the brightest. And I think my biggest takeaway, spending a week with Tom after Scandival, was I just was a little confused. Because I'm like, I spent a week with this guy, and I'm like, him and Ariana dated for a decade. And she's really smart. And Tom is Tom. And it's just like, I just don't know how after a decade, there was a disconnect. I don't know.
I think what it is they were not married, but they might as well be.
Maybe
even more so. An average married couple with no kids, one works at the accounting firm, one works here. Yeah, we have to sell the house. They had it bigger in his defense and her defense. They were on the show together. They had this whole thing going. She wasn't at the level that she is today because she was kind of in this like limbo of, I've got this job where I'm on the show and I'm his girlfriend, but we're not in a great place. And, so yeah, it went on too long. But they also own the house together, all of it, just like anybody else, where it's like, everyone's like, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you get out? Well, it's fucking hard. It's hard to move a couch, let alone like sell your house and end it all. And every time things are bad, you're like, I don't know. And then a couple weeks later, maybe you're like, okay, well now that was kind of fun.
I don't know what's true, but on a couple different occasions when talking about it, like, between him and I, Scandival, like on Special Forces, I was kind of interrogating him. We were in a Jeep together for like an hour, and I kind of like did a podcast interview with him in the back of a Jeep.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it didn't air or anything like that. And then prior to getting him on my show, when he showed up late and drunk, and
that was after Special Forces?
That was after Special Forces, and he did his thing. He is adamant. And whether I don't know what's true.
Okay.
But what I believe that he believes it.
All right.
That narrative that Ariana was not upset about the cheating, and she knew. She knew about something between him and Rachel. I don't know what to believe, but I believe that Tom believes it, And
this is what I believe. There was a reason why she decided to look at his phone when it was handed to her. And so I think that she kind of was like, I don't really care that he's out late and he's doing his band and whatever, because she didn't want to fuck him. So she was kind of like, even if she did occasionally, I think she was just kind of like, whatever. I don't think she knew about Rachel Raquel. And I'm going to go to my grave on that. I do not think she knew.
I don't know what to believe.
Then when you find out, you look back and you go, you know what? I did have that thought. And I pushed it down. I pushed it down. I pushed it down. I did have those. Everything plays back in your head like a movie. And you're like, how did I not? But I think, no, I mean, she was taking her to think. There was never any real conversation. There was never any time that Rachel Raquel ever said to her, like, I
don't know if she knew about her. It was just, every time he had this conversation, I just remember thinking to myself, he's triggered. He's upset. He's like yelling at me.
But that could be the thing too, that when you rewrite history, that would be the way that you could forgive yourself.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because you could be like, she knew, and we were just writing this out until the season ended. We were on a show together, and people said they planned things out a little bit, and they kept a lot of things private versus other couples. And I think everybody that goes on these shows, whether it's Housewives or whatever, some people lay it on the line, completely forget the camera's there. Other people fucking hire a writer to come up with snarky shit in their confessionals. Like, there's people hire, like I was just as we're talking about it, I was watching Potomac. Have you watched any of Potomac?
I've popped in. I've heard everyone who watches it says it's amazing. I want to start watching it, but I've not really got into it yet.
I'll tell you well, now I'm going to spoil for you, because these were the three juicy things that happened on Potomac. Really two. Because three. One, there was this girl, Mia, who was married to this older guy. She admits that she was like his stripper or sugar baby or whatever. They had 2 kids. They'd been together a long time. And they break up, and she gets with her old boyfriend. And she says, well, we don't know if my younger son is my old boyfriend's that I had a affair with while I was with the husband, or if it is the husband's, Gordon's. But she's having this conversation while they're filming it, where the kid is like skateboarding. And I was just like, this is so wrong. Well, turns out the kid is the husband's. And I was like, wait a minute. Now this doesn't make it that badly. But the story was from the other cast members, she always knew that the kid wasn't from an affair. She knew it was the father that the kid knew. So throwing this out was a storyline. It was juicy. It got people talking. How gross about your kid. But she knew the result was going to be okay. Like, if she didn't really know the result, would she have played that game? Probably so not, she got accused of being a bad mother. She left the show early, the reunion early. Then we have this girl, Stacy, who came from QVC, and she talks like this. And she's like, you're a liar, Mia. And she had this boyfriend named TJ. And TJ, I want to see if I have this photo of TJ. Here I do. Okay, here we go. This is TJ, and he's coming forth because she had this boyfriend named TJ. And she is like, 45. She's getting divorced with a 15-year-old daughter or whatever. No, her daughter's like 8. So she's like 40. And she's getting divorced. And she's like, I've got a best friend named TJ that I met at QVC. And TJ comes around, and she's like, she's a devout Christian. So we have not had sex. And they're like, have you done everything else but? And she's like, he's a devout Christian, but he's my best friend. So all the other women are like, what the fuck is this? So audience starts to talk. Is he gay? What's going on? What's going on? So they break up before the reunion. And at the reunion, she's like, we're broken up and that's why he's not here. Well, one of the other guys goes, yeah, we called him. We're like, why aren't you not here? And he goes, because she still owes me money. She was paying me to be her boyfriend.
Is that true?
Well, this was just on Sunday. So then all the girls,
I
and
really
by the
need
way,
to start
all
watching.
the girls have like a lot of, like, they laugh and stuff and have a lot of fun. And Andy's like falling over. Like, it's pretty entertaining. And so all the girls are like, what the fuck? Now, Giselle had this boyfriend that she met on, like, he was like a summer house dude who came to visit her twice. I called bullshit on that, but I don't think she was paying him. I think she was like, come on over, act like we're dating. You get to be filmed and kept relative, you know, getting in the zeitgeist a little bit, but whatever. I don't think she ever paid him. So they were like, did you pay him? And she's like, I did not pay him. I did not pay him. I don't know why he's saying this. He was my best friend. Well, guess what? He's not my best friend anymore. And Andy's like, why don't you just call him right now? She's like, I don't know why he's saying that. Why don't you just call him right now? And she's like, well, I will call him when I have my lawyer. Clearly she did. Clearly she paid him. And they're like, well, if you better tell the truth, Stacey, because if these Zells and, you know, something comes up, it's going to look really bad. And she just was like, I think she was like, I need to get him on the phone.
She's paying him.
Yes, she's paying him.
Why would she need to pay him?
To have a storyline, that's all.
Yes. I mean,
she obviously can get a guy, but it's hard to get guys that'll agree to be on camera. And because he was an actor and a QVC host, and she knew him from work.
So it's less about her paying him just to like have a boyfriend. It's her paying him to be a TV boyfriend, so to speak.
Yes, to have like more of a storyline going on and have people to film with.
I mean, it's still shady.
It is shady because it's a reality show, but I think it's happening like more and more, honestly, because, you know, the shows have been around for 20 years and people, you know, study them and they're like, well, what am I going to do? Like my husband or ex-husband won't be on it. I don't really want to exploit my kid. So I got to have something going on. Like there's, you know.
Bravo really, they squeeze as much juice as they can out of their cast.
And when their juice is gone, you have to create it. You have to go to concentrate.
No, it's a wild world, that Bravo world, in terms of the relationship between cast and network. And
I think what happened,
I give him a lot of credit because I couldn't do it.
I think he was like, okay, great. I'm a Christian, whatever. We'll play this storyline. And this will be fun. I don't think they were a couple at all. And then when he saw all like the gay rumors and this guy's fucking annoying and whatever, that's when then the person, and this happens with Real Husbands.
Like, you're not paying me enough.
Yeah, that's what, and this happens with Real Husbands too. Then they start to turn on their wife and then you start to fight. And so then I think he was pissed. And then maybe she really did promise him $10,000 for the season and she still owed him $5,000 or something. And then they broke up and then she was like, and then she's like, no, I'm not going to pay you another $5,000 or something. But it's probably all verbal. But I mean, you know, did people care enough about it? Now the final story, the real juicy story, is Karen Huger.
The concubine?
When she was arrested for drunk driving, she said, I am Thomas Jefferson's concubine. And she just got sentenced for 2 years, one suspended, meaning she has to do 1 year
in real time
in prison. She's currently behind bars. Of course, she's going to try to appeal it or get it taken down. What we realized last night is that she could have taken a plea deal. Again, one of those things which I would have said to James too, is right after he got arrested, you know, is you could still deny that it happened, but it would help in the public opinion if right away you go to rehab. Just go right to rehab. Just be like, whatever it is, you know what? I did have drinks that night. I didn't, you know, put my hands on anybody, or I don't think I was at the level of drunk driving, and I'll fight that. But in the meantime, you know what? Drinking doesn't work for me anymore. I'm going away. Why not? Who can't use 30 days at a nice rehab? So she didn't do that.
She refused to go to rehab?
She kept acting like it's not a big deal. And refused the plea deal.
Isn't this like her fourth or some offense or something?
Yes, so now we know it's her fourth. One, like the third one was knocked down to like a wet reckless or something, but definitely. And then they have this weird scene where they're like, since she didn't go to the reunion, they have this setup scene where she's like reading a book. And then her older husband comes in and he's like, here's your tea. And she's like, oh, thank you, Ray. So, what really happened with the drinking is after my parents died 7 years ago, she's 60. Okay. So it's like, yeah, your parents died, but they'd be fucking 100 if they were still alive. After my parents died, I just, I started to self-medicate. Well, then the other girl brings up that she went to a restaurant, another one went to a restaurant, saying that she day drink all the time. She was an alcoholic for sure. So she's going to do her prison time. She will get out in a year, probably like 8 months. She will be back on the show. And, yeah, but then the other thing is they said that there was somebody else in the car with her because she was always rumored to have a boyfriend. And we don't know, like, because she crashed the car. And so did someone skedaddle? Did she tell someone to leave?
You would have thought that would have been caught.
I don't know. I don't know if
that's true. I guess it depends
where
the accident was and things like that. And there's so many cameras.
She definitely doesn't want to like lose her husband at this point. When you're in prison, your lover doesn't visit you.
But if he was a passenger, like why would he need to?
Well, was he the passenger or was he actually driving her? They got in the car accident.
And she decided to take her 4th DUI and face jail time.
She might have gotten away with so many that she might have thought it would be better that I look like I was driving versus everyone finally knowing that I had an affair. Because Giselle came on my podcast years ago and said she had a blue-eyed boyfriend that's her driver. And she's like,
so you think, so this was an alleged boyfriend who she was cheating on.
So let's say he was driving. Maybe he was a little buzzed too. He hit the car. She was like, go leave. Because while she was wasted talking to the cop, she was like, I wasn't driving the car. And Ray shows up. He's like, what? So I don't know. I think she's very comfortable with lying. She's obviously an alcoholic and she can never drink again. And, but... So
was she the third Bravo celebrity to be incarcerated?
Okay, there was Teresa. Jen Shaw is still there, but her sentence keeps getting shut down.
Yeah, she's going to be out, I think,
she's with Elizabeth Holmes, one drop, and they hang out together and work out. And then for doing any real time, I think you're right.
This is the third.
Yeah, I mean, a ton of them have been arrested for different things. Okay, here's a juicy fact that really might surprise you. 66% of men are investing in the stock market compared to just 48% of women, which is crazy because they found that actually women are better investing because they know exactly what drives them and they have passion and why they think it would be a great investment. Acorns is a financial wellness app that makes it easy to start saving and investing for your future. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that matches you and your money goals. You don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you get started with the spare money you've got right now, even if all you've got is spare change. What I like about Acorns is that it got me investing. I got to see my money grow. And honestly, it's such a great feeling to know that I'm just not continuing to put that off. Sign up now and join the over 13 million all-time customers who have already saved and invested over $22 billion with Acorns. Head to acorns.com/juicyscoop or download the Acorns app to get started. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Paid non-client endorsement. Tier 1 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors, LLC, and SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/juicyscoop. Okay, we all have our favorite childhood memories. Maybe it's you performing in a play or Christmas morning. I came across all these VHS tapes of my first time doing stand-up, also, at the Groundlings Sketch Comedy Theater, and I want you guys to see it. Well, you're going to, because I've got Legacy Box, and Legacy Box makes it so easy. You just fill your Legacy Box with old VHS tapes or camcorder tapes, pictures. Their team professionally digitizes everything by hand in the USA, and you'll get it back, plus your originals, on the cloud that makes it so simple to share, stream, and download the memories. Like, I am so excited to do this, you guys. I mean, it's such great content out of it, and I'm a little scared, but kind of excited to see what my first jokes were. Go to legacybox.com/juicy to get an incredible 50% off. Buy today, send in when you're ready. Go to legacybox.com/juicy. Legacybox.com/juicy. Okay, let's go a little bit to It Ends With Us controversy. The latest is that the New York Times is trying to have the judge drop the fact that he's suing them for defamation, saying we are within the lines of opinion.
Sure.
And so that's where we're in with that. Also, that this was Daily Mail, so I don't know how, exact it was, but that Taylor Swift will have to be deposed, which I would think she would be. So what is your opinion? Because you are, I've seen clips and you're not a Justin Baldoni fan.
No.
And tell me where you are with it all now.
Where
because
are you
a lot.
Where are you at?
When it first came out with the New York Times article, I believed that, yes, I believe in smear campaigns. I think I've been a victim of smear campaigns.
Sure. Okay.
I understand how bots and hate pages work and fake conversations going on. So I kind of was like, oh, wow, this is juicy. I think maybe this did happen because he felt she fucked him over, and then he went and brought up weird interviews where she came off like an a-hole. So I did believe it. But I definitely am on team Justin.
Why?
Oh my God. I've talked about it too many times. There's so much evidence. There's so much. Oh my God. We're not going to do the whole show. In a nutshell, I don't believe he sexually harassed her. I don't think the sexy voicemail was him having a sexy voice, returning a text that she left at 1:42, in which he was really trying to placate her. I think his efforts were really earnest to put a great movie together. I think he was completely shocked when she went forward with these sexual harassment things. All the joking and all the things that have come since this supposed incident makes me not believe Ryan Reynolds or her. I think Ryan and Blake, I think, are completely two peas in a pod. I think they're a match made in heaven. I think I do think they'll probably stay together forever. I was like, the only way out of it is if she turns it on Ryan and it's like, he forced me to do this lawsuit, but they're not doing that. So I think they're going to stick together forever.
And what's their motive for doing all this?
I think that they wanted the rights to the second film.
Based on what evidence?
Based on that he has it, and she wanted to direct it, and they already had too much problems at the end to go to do another film.
So, but that is just a theory with no evidence? Just that there is another book out there, and we assume that.
Well, the rewriting of the scenes and all that kind of stuff, he should not have done that. That's a Writers Guild violation.
Sure, that happens all the time.
And
like
it was
Kurt Russell
and it wasn't funny.
Regardless, that's all semantics. But like Kurt Russell famously took over Tombstone. And all the actors on set talk still to this day and rave. They bring up like Tombstone and whatever. Like Kurt Russell wasn't the director, wasn't credited for it. The original director was famously fired, and then they hired someone else. But Kurt Russell just took it over, and every one of his co-stars and actors and Val Kilmer.
So are you saying if she was a man that took over the film?
I'm just saying it happens all the time.
Okay.
It has happened. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. We can debate whether like someone stepped on someone's toes, but it's not a crime. And it happens all the time.
I mean, all I can say is I understand what you're saying. And like I said, I was team her from the start. But then I'm like, there's just too many things I've seen, too many interviews, too many clips, too many things throughout the media. There's just been so many. But you've been a little criticized by some of my people that have come on the show that really have done the hard work. Like they have read the 195. You've read all the court docs too.
I wouldn't say I've read every single page.
I'm going to say I've absolutely not read the
first
court
complaint. I read Justin's first complaint against the New York Times.
There was something I think that you said in one of your shows that you kind of were, not like saying like, oh, these content creators, building their cases is not that important, or I don't know what you said.
I don't know what I said either.
They felt a little like brushed off.
Who's they?
I just saw like a couple videos of criticism towards you. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to ask him about it because, of course, you have your right to your opinion too. I am always really grateful when people go and spend hours coming or finding, oh my God, this is an interesting interview Blake did from 5 years ago. This is telling of her character. This is a pattern in her behavior. This is her personality. And
sure.
I don't think her personality is the worst thing in the world or whatever, but it does make sense when we see it. And that's what Justin was saying. Like here's evidence of 10 years of her saying things like this. And that's exactly what Justin said happened. And it wasn't him coming in and watching and wanting to see her breastfeed. And it was, it wasn't him being a creep. And I think that's why he's fighting so hard because it's not true. Just like Lisa Barlow, I'm going the distance on this one. Someone's accusing me of something I'm not doing. It's too big of a thing in this day and age to just go, okay, I'll let her say this. And I think that's why he's fighting so hard. And that I respect.
I think you're way off.
Okay, now tell me what you think and then we'll move on.
Well, like I said before, like my biggest opinion is based off the fact that I have met Justin and interviewed Justin a few years ago.
Okay.
And in preparation for the interview, I read his books and I watched his videos.
And I will say when you came on my show, you were like, spent the time to read my books. And I have to say, I have never had someone come that was a guest on my show that was like, by the way, I read both these books like in the last night because I was excited to meet you. So I do love that about you. So I believe you based on past behavior. I believe you. Okay.
And I'm interviewing him. So
right,
I want, he was promoting his book.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
And so
I read my guest books too, but a lot of people
and
don't.
that's why I'm kind of surprised by your take, only because like I feel like, I don't pay attention that much to like every take that you have, but I feel like, when we get to know each other, similar backgrounds, I am just very, like something that I'm very skeptical of is like wolves in sheep's clothing, and I think maybe it's my Catholic background, right?
Okay.
As someone who I grew up very Catholic around priests and nuns, and I personally have had a great experience.
Right. So have I.
I know a lot of people haven't.
Correct.
Some of the priests I grew up with that personally I've had a good experience with have since been found out to be terrible human beings. And so I'm just very cautious of people who go out of their way and present themselves as some sort of authority and protector of people who are in vulnerable places, right? And I think priests in general are like, there's a certain level of authority they have, and I think they have to really respect that, right? And so when I met Justin, I don't know how many people I've interviewed over the course of the 5 years, hundreds, and most people are wonderful. I've met some friends. Some people are just like, oh, they seem fine, or whatever. He's the only person I had like a visceral reaction to, where I was like, this guy's full of shit. That was my opinion. And I just felt like I was like, something's just off about this guy, everything he did in the interview, and again, that's just my opinion. Sometimes you just feel something, where it's just like and my big thing is like when reading his books and all these things, and I was interviewing, asking him follow-up questions, I didn't feel like he could actually elaborate on what he talked about. It was like all he did is kind of rehearse and rehash the things that were in his book.
And what was the book? Just being a male feminist and
it's literally
championing women?
It's all about it's all about kind of lecturing other men about how you're supposed to act around women and all this virtue signaling about but he used to be bad in the past and he's done the work and now he knows how to be good and it's like he's basically selling safety. Just like a priest does. He sells I used to be bad, but now I'm good. And you can trust me, and I'm safe around. You're safe around me. And he's specifically speaking to women who have had a bad experience from a man. I'm sure most women I've met, I've had at least one instance, or sadly more, where some guy just made them feel uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? And so when the Blake stuff came out back in when the movie came out. And it was the story first broke that was all of a sudden Blake and the rest of the cast had separated themselves from Justin, right? I remember being like, I fucking knew it. That was just my personal holy shit, I fucking knew it. I didn't know this is at the point where we didn't know why they had separated.
We didn't know why.
We didn't know anything.
Yeah, I remember
right?
that too. I didn't even think it was that big of a news story.
I just remember like having, and I just remember being like, I didn't know what it was about this guy, but like the fact that no one's doing press with this guy, I'm like, I fucking knew, you know.
Okay.
So that's, you know, obviously there's a bias there. I from my personal experience with him. And then what I thought was so weird is that the days that followed, the internet was like universally against Blake. And the clips we were putting out were just being like spammed with negative comments. And I remember being like, wow, like I did not expect this. You know, I didn't think anything about smear campaigns. I would just remember being like, this is weird. Like,
well, I was in defense of Blake too, because I was like, prior to it, I talked about how I saw this interview about this hairdresser who wrote a book, and he was saying it was about his life. And of course, the only clips that no one cared about his life except when he talked about celebrities. And he was like, oh, you know, this actress was so wonderful and we were best friends. Blake never asked me about her daughter. She invited us all over and the food wasn't ready yet for Easter. I'm like, she invited the crew for Easter? That sounds pretty fucking nice. Like, I was like, you know what? Sometimes hairdressers and makeup artists, sometimes the artist is so worried about the scene, they don't want to ask you about your daughter.
Sure.
So I was in the defense of like, that the fact that like makeup and hair people are always like, oh, like we all just believe everything they say. Yeah. And I'm like,
very gossipy.
Sometimes, you know, we don't want to be your best friend because we're stressed. We don't want to follow up with you because we hung out on a movie for 2 months. And that shouldn't mean that she's inherently a bad person.
Well, but I think there's a huge difference between being a jerk and being a creep. And what I have learned is that like, depending on who you ask, like, a lot of people disagree with that, you know, like.
Disagree with creep versus
jerk. Yeah. Oh. I mean, listen, I think, you know, if you're good at setting a boundary and you're good at saying no to people and you're good at asking for what you want, there's a lot of people out there who like think you're kind of like not fun or like, you know, I don't know. There's people out there who might think I'm a jerk, you know, or maybe people out there who might think you're a jerk because you're good at being like, you're no bullshit person, you know? Anyway, so like back to that, I just remember thinking like, wow, this is so off. Like why, like it didn't make sense to me that like here you have this like ultra celebrity in Blake Lively. I knew who Justin was at the time, but like compared to like her, like I would say 9 out of 10 people who have heard this story don't even know who this guy is. And I think that's part of why like sentiment has like, I think most people are finding the story. It's just like, ooh, Blake Lively, what did she do wrong? Like a kind of a fall from grace situation. But it just like made no sense to me, you know? And then, you know, the movie came out, story kind of went away. Right. Everyone kind of forgot about it, blah, blah, blah. And then so when that story came out, it kind of all made sense where it was just like, oh, well, like that's why it didn't, you know, to me, it really registered that like this whole smear campaign that like Blake has alleged that he's doing kind of started back in August when I think that the moment in which she put him and his team down in the basement or whatever, or that the premiere came out where he had to do press on his own, that's when him and his team said, we're going to war and we're doing this. And I could bring up accounts or like, I found this one interesting Twitter account called something Marvelous or something. And this person, I don't know if it's a he or a she, it's like an anonymous account, but like broke down just like what Justin his team is doing. Right. And so essentially when you think about the smear campaign, smear.
Like on a bagel. Yeah.
So I think it's really fascinating. Like in this Jed Wallace person that's named or whatever, like he does exist. I know people who have taken meetings with this guy.
He's the one that she accused ran the bot farm.
He's the person who seems to be like running the social media manipulation. And essentially what seems to be going on is like you kind of mentioned before, like a lot of it is this like, you kind of play on like various narratives. So you go on Reddit, you create some like storylines, you create some content, you find old clips, you find old videos, you blitz, you really push a narrative over and over. Then you find other people out there online with the same messaging. You search like pro-Justin stuff, anti-Blake stuff. And then when it comes to the pro-Justin stuff, they're boosting those posts, right? And so for example, this particular account, it started this thread explaining what he was doing by like showing this one tweet that had like 300 impressions, 6 likes, and 60 retweets. Now, that is basically saying this was boosted because like you can't show me a tweet out there that has that ratio that's actually organic.
Right.
If something has like 10 retweets, it has 50 likes or something to that effect. So this is clearly something that like, it was like, I think the tweet was, you can't make me hate Justin Baldoni or something. And this account was pointing out that this was like a failed attempt at boosting this particular tweet. But they're doing this in like great numbers and they're going online searching for, and they kind of broke down, they looked at all the retweets and looked at the accounts and yada, yada, yada. And when you think about the internet it operates in trends. I mean, you and I do that, I'm sure, like what's trendy, what music's trending, what dances are trending and things like that. And so I know there's a lot of speculation about like people accusing, Justin's team is paying people or yada, yada, yada. But it's also just like, I think people love following trends. And so for the, I don't know who's mad at me or whatever. But I do like, listen, I'm not a journalist. I don't report the news. I'm an entertainer,
That's
like,
what I say.
right?
This is a comedic commentary on pop culture.
We might be wrong. I don't know. But
I have not read all the court docs.
And I've read the vast majority of them. I'm not an expert though, and we've had some experts on, but there's a lot of people out there online who are like, social media commentators or podcasters or whatever, who act like they are experts just because they've read complaints and then like every day they're out there with this new theory this and this new theory that. And that's great. They have their take, but that doesn't make them experts because they believe a narrative. Also, whether it's on purpose or not, like there's a lot of people out there benefiting from the fact that Justin, I believe, has a team boosting all the pro-Justin stuff and suppressing the anti-Blake stuff, because also what they're able to do is like all these like fake accounts and not really bots.
I mean, pushing the anti-Blake.
Well, no, what actually can happen is like you get a bunch of accounts that then start like, if you see a pro-Blake account, you can like, I can go on your page and start like reporting all your content if I wanted to. Oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so if you get hundreds of those, that can suppress that stuff. And so like, I think it's really going on. And like the alleged, Justin Baldoni's co-founder is a billionaire. He has the money to do exactly what Justin's team seems to be doing, which is fighting this case in the court of public opinion. And everyone's just kind of dismissing that. And so I also think it's crazy to think like, so in all these narratives about like, most of the conversations is about the sexual harassment. No one's really talking about the smear campaign. And to me, I think what most people should be freaked out about is that part of Blake's complaint, because like the smear campaign of like, I think it's scary. If Blake's side is right, if my opinion is right, I think people should be terrified what Justin and his team have been able to accomplish. This guy seems to be has unlimited funding, right? Has a following himself, has been able to take down and change the narrative of some of the most likable, formerly, like A-list celebrities in the world, because he has a very dedicated, very sophisticated team who's been able to like drive these narratives and bring up every awkward interview that Blake's ever given or every bitchy moment she's might have said or things like that. And I think we love a takedown. America loves a takedown and they love a comeback. You know what I'm saying? And so I think right now, Justin is benefiting from the fact that most people don't even know who he is. And most people, when they hear the story, they're just like, what did Blake do wrong? What did she say? Most people don't even care enough. They don't even care enough to know that this whole man's, like he does a TED Talk, like talking about how like, you need to believe women even if what they're saying is against you. And I'm just simply saying like that sexy voicemail, like, it's all, we can sit here and debate whether like that was creepy or it wasn't creepy. It really depends on who you are. Like if you want to fuck the guy, you might think his voice is hot, whatever. Yeah. But I'm saying that the guy who has written all these books, who gives these TED Talks, you don't at the end of a 6-minute voice message talk about someone's boob, like in that context when your whole platform is saying how like, I know how to talk to women. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what creepy is. If your 18-year-old son came home and he brought his buddies and you overheard them talking about the porn they were watching, you might be like, you gross yuck. If your priest came over and started talking about the porn he watched, you would have a very different opinion. And my point is that like when a guy like Justin comes in and says, I've done the work, I know what it's like, I am your ally, trust me women, I know you've had all these terrible experiences with men, but I know your plight. And then the next thing you know, he's sending you a 6-minute voicemail talking about your boob. You're like, it's the
Okay,
it's like, you're like, what the fuck?
We're going to move on, but I'm going to tell you, this is what I think happened. You said what you think happened. This is what I think happened, okay? I think, he could be a bit of a BS or want to be this person. That's fine. I think that she was excited to, as any mom who's been married for 10 years and has 4 kids, I've never played a role where I was romantic with someone, but I would fucking jump at the chance at 25 years of marriage because it's like a legal free makeout, right?
I guess.
So I'm just saying, it's kind of exciting. She also, that's how she got with Ryan Reynolds when they were both with other people on the Green Lantern. So I think she was being flirty, a little bit excited for it. At one point, she wasn't maybe even having any intention to get with him, but just enjoying that time. Ryan got wind of it, saw the text messages on the kid's iPad or whatever, and didn't like it, and then got pissed. And then she placated her husband, who she knows his moods after 10 years, and was like, he's fucking creeping me out. Like, he's coming in here when I'm breastfeeding, and he's like, he did what? Oh, fuck this motherfucker. And then his first reaction is, let's make fun of him, because that's what I like to do. They shoot the nice pool part where they're making fun of him, which is absolutely, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that.
The way people are like making that such a thing.
That's comedy, that you're able to do that. That's legal. Okay.
And also, like, if someone, whether your version's right or my version's right, like if someone, like if I were in his position and I thought some guy was a creep working with my wife, I would absolutely mock him.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I can kind of see that. I can kind of see that. And then they're like, fuck this guy. We're never going to work with him again. And the studio's aware of it. So they're like, you guys have to have separate things. Blake is the bigger star and she's bringing in the bigger star husband. And that kind of bummed Justin out. But he was like, whatever. But he was like, no, like maybe there was something going on with like, let's get out stories of what a bitch she was. I'm just saying. But then they went the next step months later, and they said that she said I was sexually harassed. And I do not believe that she was.
See,
now, she didn't say she was assaulted. She was harassed. And harassed
well, that's a huge
can
difference,
be
yes.
It's a huge, huge, huge difference.
Let me ask you this.
So it can be interpreted as such when you're the victim of it. So I will give her that.
So 2 things. Back in August when the story came out, there were reports about like, when Blake was getting crucified initially, People magazine or something came out, I think it was People, came out with some story about like the reason for the disconnect between the rest of the cast and Justin. It was some of Justin's on set behavior or something. And then I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
And then immediately people were like, fuck Blake, this is bullshit. This is like, I was like, what? Like, in any other story, I was like, this would like turn into something, and it weirdly didn't. And again, I don't know, maybe at the time.
Here's the final thing of it in this day and age of 2025. And there's been, I was sexually harassed by my first network podcast one guy. And there was someone that was like, a lawyer came to me. I heard your story. I heard that I played the tape. Do you want to sue and all that stuff? And I was like, no, like, I don't care to go down that road. I wasn't thrown up against a wall. Was I sexually harassed? Was I felt nervous? Yes. The worst part about it was he tried to keep me from having a podcast for the next 6 months.
See, I don't think
like that is where I was like, just let me fucking work. Like that is where it was so annoying. But I ended up putting out the story. I played the tape. He was like, I was being funny. I'm like, oh, good. Then aren't you glad that I played how funny you were? And then it because the things that mattered most to him, being a UC regent, that was taken from him. Carrying a gun around as an honorary sheriff, that was taken from him. And now he's deceased. But no, people still think, oh, Heather's problematic. She sued. No, I never fucking sued.
But that's the thing. I actually think that she never wanted to or intended to bring this case forward because of the sexual harassment. Like, this is my conspiracy, right? Like, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but like, if her version is true, so she came to set, he did some weird things, whatever, there's also like alleged witnesses. So like if this goes to court, like, I mean, maybe if she's lying, I mean, I do think one person in the story is a horrible person. I do believe that. Like, but, and then like, you know, again, like maybe I'm off track, but if you're, I want to go back, but if do you have a friend who's recently lost a parent or a loved one who has like maybe still like hard feelings about like losing their parent?
Right. Yes,
right?
Of course everyone does.
And if their boss, who like you were like on the fence about, came to work one day and was like, I was talking to your dad last night.
Oh, that's right. Then what was the story there that he said to her, I talked to your dad in my dream last night?
And it seemed like multiple times. So like think about that. Like that's such a manipulative thing to be like, I have a relationship with your father. I've been talking to him, and you know what? He's proud of you, or he's sad. I don't know what he said, but that's fucked up. And even if that's all he did, and
right.
That would be like, stop fucking doing that, you know? And so if that's all he did,
I think you shouldn't have done it. I think she would have done nothing until she believed, she and Ryan, that there was real evidence of the smear campaign.
Yes, I think
and
exactly
then in doing it, they listed all the fucking things that went on. And they said, actually, these other things are under sexual harassment. So we're going to put that in there too. I know people are going to correct a million things in this discussion.
Sure.
I know there was a complaint that happened when there was a COVID break, and that's when Deadpool was done. I mean, that's why this conversation keeps going on. And that's why it's going to trial in a year, because there is so fucking much through it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think they complained about his behavior.
Yeah.
According to her side, that behavior allegedly got better. Like he stopped doing whatever she said, please stop doing this so we can just finish this fucking project and I can never talk to you again.
Right.
And then, maybe Blake shouldn't have distanced herself from Justin, whatever. She pulled that move. I think his team saw that as like the first punch. And then he got together with his billionaire buddy. They hired this like team that, again, the emails out there, think about all the emails. Like, I don't know how, like, to me, all the emails that you've been talking about Blake are just so, like, Blake being nice to Justin doesn't mean that, like, he made her feel uncomfortable or any of the things that she claimed weren't true.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like, when you have something like this, every single thing, like even with my, Podcast One boss,
I'm sure
people were like, you went on his boat, like first month of working there.
Yeah, you're trying to make it work.
Yeah, with my husband.
Sure, I mean,
and my friend, and it was fine, and he wasn't creepy then, and it really, and even when he was creepy, the first thing I did was I called him and I said, I don't want to have a podcast anymore. And I go, I am not making enough money. And he goes, all right, fine. Just know you can't have a podcast anywhere else. I go, what do you mean I can't? The whole point is I'm supposed to have my own. So it was I tried to do all those things, but
I think they felt like they came after him. This is like the conspiracy. Think about like way back in the 60s. Like, no, we had the Trump assassination attempt, which weirdly no one like talked about, which was kind of bizarre. And I was like, this is the craziest thing that's going on. What the fuck is going on? In the 60s, you had JFK, RFK, Malcolm X, MLK. They were all assassinated. Like that used to be like a weird thing. Like there was these crazy assassinations and like from public figures that were disruptors. And you know why you see less of that? Because it's far more effective just to assassinate someone's character. When you actually assassinate someone literally, you actually like memorialize their cause. I know I'm getting a little deeper in the weeds,
that's actually
but
an interesting
when you
point.
think about it in those contexts, Justin Baldoni allegedly got accused of being a creep, and she's like, please fucking stop. And instead of just stopping, him and his like colleagues tried to literally destroy her. They tried to assassinate her character and her husband's. And like, if this alleged that this billionaire was willing to spend $100 million, now that's just an allegation. We don't know if it's true. I don't know where that came from. It's in her statement. But like, if that's the case, I do think for Blake and Ryan, I think it is personal. I think they're like, because it really makes no sense, right? Like, objectively speaking, if you're their lawyer or their friend, it's like, do you really want to go to battle with it? Like, is it worth it? Like, this guy's a nobody compared to you and blah, 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 blah. Like, things have blown over.
So I think
they're like, this guy tried to come for my fucking family. They try to destroy it. And I think they're out there being like, fuck this guy. And they're seeing it through.
Okay. But I think in their heart of hearts, they've got to be. And then we're moving on. I definitely think they regret it because it's like, what's the point?
That might be true, but I do think it's personal.
This episode of Juicy Scoop is sponsored by Booking.com. So I love using Booking.com. I travel a lot. but I travel doing different things. Sometimes I'm by myself, but I'm bringing a couple featured comedians as well. And we need nice hotel rooms that have accommodations. We need a gym. We need the coffee in the room, that type of thing. And then other times I've got my family, and maybe you're a family with little kids and you're traveling a lot and you want to make sure that they're taken care of, that there's enough for them to do, the kind of food they like, or maybe you want an included meal for breakfast, which makes it so easy because, these kids wake up and they're bouncing around and then they're going to go jump in the hotel pool. All of that can be found. And Booking.com has a huge variety of options from hotels to vacation rentals, and I'm always able to find something that fits my specific needs. I found that Booking.com has something for everyone. No matter who you are, Booking.com helps you find the stay that's ridiculously right for you. Find exactly what you're booking for on Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Did you see the Millie Bobby Brown?
Oh, she ate.
Well, you think she looks great?
No, I'm saying, are we going to talk about her outing all these journalists that wrote some stories?
Okay. Yeah. So here she is when the Stranger Things started a couple years later, and today she's only 21 years old. She normally had brown hair. Now she has blonde hair with bangs. And in some of these red carpet photos, I don't know if it was the lighting. Maybe she did get some filler or something. But the biggest difference is she has long blonde hair. Mm-hmm. And it looks very mature. She definitely looks like a woman who's 38, not 21. So people commented, and then she called it out, and no makeup, but with the blonde hair. And she said all the, who would write these articles and put this up? Well, the articles were written because the photos were public and people were commenting, and then that becomes viral. And then these people write articles. And I do appreciate her saying that. But at the same time, if you're going to be an actress, if you're going to go on the red carpet, your dress is either going to be seen as beautiful or bad. We are going to comment on people's looks. I'm sorry. It's just a fact. And I think it's mostly the blonde hair. I don't know what she's had done to her face, but I too think she looks like she's a woman that's on her second divorce. Sorry, I do.
Sure. I mean,
you
are definitely entitled to that opinion.
She still looks really attractive.
But I don't think
her look just looks mature. She still looks very attractive. But to me, she does look unrecognizable. I would have never known who that was. And I'm sorry that she was hurt by it. But looking older and more mature, so what? Then you can play a variety of roles.
Fair enough. But I also think she's entitled to be offended.
Oh, 100%.
And I think she's entitled to do exactly what she did and go out there and read the names and the headlines of, because some of them are fucking shitty headlines. I mean,
I agree.
The bullshit, some of the people who are out there, and that's not to go back to what we just talked about, but fucking journalism is dead. I think, well, we're not news reporters and we're not journalists. Sometimes we have more credibility than people who claim to be the news because we've never told people that we're the absolutely undisputed place for trusted news.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We don't pretend to be, but sometimes there's outlets out there who we are, and then they do their bullshit and bias, and it's just well, fuck, man, why should we believe you? Anyways.
Well,
I think I say good on her. And she came into this business as a 10-year-old and now she's only 21. And for some of these people who are writing these articles, it's coming from a place of pettiness and hate and shit like that. And yeah, again, I guess she's... And
also just the Drake thing, Drake and her used to talk on the phone when she was 13.
That's on
Drake.
Which
was fucking weird.
That's on Drake.
Of course. It was weird. And, and it got reminded at the Super Bowl and at the Oscars. Yeah. So... Did you see this when Ariana Grande was asked about her next album? And she goes, I went to the
I think she was trolling.
brain erase clinic or something. It's some clinic. And I looked it up and it does exist.
It does exist.
It does exist.
Oh, I thought she was just trolling.
No, she was like, that clinic, that makes your memories go away. They erase your memories. And I was like, I don't know. There's so many weird things in LA. And obviously, if there was some awful memory of getting in a horrific car accident and seeing your mom die or something, and it kept replaying in your mind and someone goes, do you want that erased?
This is a thing.
Then why would that not be, that to me sounds like a good thing.
Potentially, yeah.
But then of course, conspiracy things are like, is that what they do to children who were like, molested by Hollywood elites? We just send them to the clinic to erase the memories of it. But that's that she said it just so, with her wide eyes.
When I saw it, I thought she was like just trolling. Making she got asked a question she didn't want to answer, and then she was like, I don't know, they erased my memory so I can answer it. That's how I took it.
But she actually says the clinic's name.
So,
So it is a real place.
That's bizarre.
And that Sloan Hooks got that one. Adrian Brody, just to remind people, he has this beautiful girlfriend. The girlfriend is the ex-wife of Harvey
Natalie
Weinstein.
told me this morning. I was like, what?
Yes, I've known this for a while, and I'm just like, wow, a woman like that could go from marrying the most evil Jabba the Hutt looking man, having 2 of his kids, and which I'm like, who knows? She might have gotten sperm. Who even knows if her 2 kids with him or whatever? And who knows if they even go by Weinstein anymore because he's like in prison. But and Weinstein would bully all of his actresses to wear her dresses when she was like trying to be a designer. And now she's still drop dead gorgeous. And now with an 2-time Oscar winner who is like a father to the kids. I mean, talk about someone that just must have a real something about her to get men. I don't know. It's
I don't know, but I don't know.
I think it's great.
I don't know how old she was when she met Harvey. Clearly, he's a monster.
I remember just seeing them at the Oscars, and I remember her hair being darker at that time.
He's a monster.
And her being like, and I remember going, God, like, how do you tell yourself, like, this is who you're in love with? I remember thinking that.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? But my heart goes out to her. My heart goes out to her. He's a monster. He's obviously manipulated and abused, so many people. It's like, I'm just glad she's in a better place.
What did she know? Who knows?
Who knows?
Lizzo's thin. Good for her. Good for her. And it was one of my predictions from over 2 years ago. The minute I heard about
if she's happy, I'm happy.
I said, watch. Lizzo's going to get thin and people are going to get pissed. And they're going to say, I thought you said you loved your body and da-da-da. Yeah, that was your body and you should love your body every time.
However you look.
You should be grateful that you could walk. You should be grateful that you could breathe. But are you then want to change it 5 years later because you have the ability to, and then you like it?
Yeah.
And
there's a difference between self-love and the willingness to like make your life better if you think it's possible.
Lizzo wasn't walking around
listening to your doctor.
Everybody needs to be fat. Eat that. No, she was like, this is me.
And I love me.
And I'm going to dance around and do the flute. And I still love me. And there's nothing wrong with body positivity. It didn't go away. But yeah, a lot of people that were, that was a trend and they were using, some of them are smaller today. So what? This was kind of interesting, and this came from Archive Kardashian. They put together a video of when Kylie Jenner was with Travis Scott, the father of her 2 kids, and he lost the Grammy, and they show him, and he just ignores her and walks away angrily, and she's in this gown, like, trying to find him. And then they cut to her current boyfriend, Timothée Chalamet, when he lost the Oscar, and how loving and sweet and gracious he was to her. And I'm so happy she's with him. I'm like loving this relationship. And I think the next, since they went from athletes to now Oscar contenders, the next single Kardashian obviously has to go for like a major politician.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, it's
I think
almost
that is the goal is to get into the White House, either as a wife or that person.
I don't know about Travis Scott or whatever. I know he's had that Astroworld controversy and blah, blah, blah. But like, Timmy seems like he's really happy and grateful to be in this relationship. Yeah. And it wouldn't blow my mind if Travis maybe like didn't act as, grateful, so to speak. And I think now that Kylie's older, more mature, like, she's making different decisions. She's able to, this guy never even cared about me, liked me in the past. And like, this guy treats me like a fucking queen.
Throughout the whole time, she's just been like so beautiful and gracious. I love it. Okay, let's talk about the Alex Cooper of Call Her Daddy and Alix Earle from TikTok fame
And let's squeeze in Matt James and Rachel.
Okay, controversy, which is Alex Cooper took on Alix Earle and to be part of her Unwell podcast or Sirius lineup, which seemed great. But she has since said Alix Earle is left the network and I have no rights to that podcast. Hot mess. And we don't know where the Hot Mess podcast is going to land. So people are speculating. Neither have spoken anything about it negatively about each other, which is wise. And what happened? Now, a couple things that happened is Super Bowl happened and Alex Cooper was having a big party for her Unwell network and Alix Earle was in the town and didn't come. Just blew off the Super Bowl party. But also, so...
And in 2 Super Bowl commercials.
Right. So obviously she's part of her network. They're in the town. I'm Alex Cooper. I would feel a little snubbed if she couldn't at least pop by for a half hour and take some photos and do what influencers do.
Yeah, but I don't think that's why.
So this is what I think.
Okay.
I think that they were friends and they were excited. And I think 2 things. I don't know that Alix Earle is loving doing a podcast. I think not everyone is great at podcasting. Yes. I think she's gorgeous. I think she's fun to watch. I think she can be a model. I think she's dating a cute football player. Talking and telling stories is not everybody's jam. So she might have been complaining. She might not have been liking it that much. Alex Cooper may have been giving her advice of like a direction to go that she didn't want to go. And I think Alex Cooper being 30, already having a breakup with Sophia F., was like, you know what? I am not going to have this go any further. And I'm not going to be perceived as Cruella de Vil, who like fucking Miranda from, Devil Wears Prada, who is like firing, like, let's just call it a day and let's not speak negatively about each other. You go do your podcast wherever you want to go. I have $200 million, no sweat off my back. That's that. And that's what I think happened. Yeah. And I think Alix Earle is probably like, okay, like, and it just didn't work out. But because it's 2 beautiful blonde women, people want to make it think it was a bigger thing.
I couldn't agree more. I don't think it's that deep.
Right.
I know Alix Cooper. I don't know Alix Earle at all. Alix Cooper's all business. I think she's a businesswoman. And, like Alix, I have a podcast network. Alix is obviously bigger than mine. But, when people I sign, I want them to love podcasting. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the number one quality when I'm looking for talent to sign and come on my show. When I get pitched, I want to know that they love doing this versus like, is this like some sort of side project that you're adding to the million things that because everyone's doing and everyone thinks it's easy. And you're right, podcasting is hard, and we get in on these mics every week and we give our opinions and thoughts and we share a little bit of our lives and we leave the door open for people to pick it apart, nitpick it, whatever. And like, she's doing her thing, Alix Earle, she, on the internet. And I think it just became I think Alix is more like, your heart's just not into it. She's kind of, whether she was a diva or not, it was just more like, you're kind of too much work and you have your own thing going on. You're doing Super Bowl commissions and let's just part ways, because all the other people she's signing right now are probably maybe more passionate about it. It's their thing.
And also really classic for her to be like, take it. I don't want any rights to it, which is like, what I talked about previously with my first podcast wasn't the case with me. So it's like, to me, that is like a very classy move.
And Dave did the same thing for her, it was like, I don't think it's that deep. I think it was just more like, your heart's not in it. I want people to be in it. And like, you never want to ask people to record or show up, and you don't want to track them down, and you don't want to push them to like lean in. And I just, like you said, I just don't think podcasting was Alix Earle's thing. Yeah. If you're getting multiple Super Bowl commercials in one Super Bowl, and you're like getting all these incredible opportunities that Alix Earle is getting, and she's like, I don't need this shit.
Also, it might be the one thing, and I don't know because I haven't listened to it, but I haven't heard like a lot of buzz or that it's that great. I've heard it's a little boring, Alix Earle's podcast. So it might be the one thing that she read first, the first bit of negativity that she's gotten since she's been doing this for 3 years. And she's like, fuck, this gives me an icky feeling. Yeah. This makes me not want to do this.
Exactly.
Modeling, doing a cute video with my boyfriend about our
Get ready
night
for
out,
me, whatever.
Going to a wedding. That I get so much love for. Why? And you should do the things that bring you joy. Like, don't
Alex
be doing
Cooper,
it.
Like firing Alix Earle because she didn't show up to her party. I don't think so.
No. Kourtney Kardashian really quickly, there was a rumor going around that that Mason Disick, her son, had a 1-year-old daughter named Piper. And it started because there was supposedly his fake Insta, the coordinates matched with their home in Hidden Hills. And I talked about it on my Patreon Friday, and I'm like, I don't believe this is true, but I do think this is a rumor that she will address. And she did. Kourtney addressed it. It's absolutely not true. He does not have a child. It's a complete made-up thing. It was someone made up the fake Finsta, the whole thing, all fake. Okay, now the last thing I want to talk about, because I was kind of fascinated, being that you were a former Bachelor, was Matt James has since, he was the one that was a Bachelor with Rachel Kirkconnell. He broke up with her, and then before she plane even landed, he posted that we'd broken up. I talked about it on the show. He has since deleted that post, and he's in Kenya by himself asking for, African.
One-way ticket.
Yeah, one-way ticket, African recommends. Now, tell me what you think of all of this, being that you're a Bachelor.
I'm kind of fascinated by it.
I was so fascinated by it.
For one, I'm really happy for Rachel. And that's mostly because, for people who don't remember, like when Matt was the Bachelor, and that was when Chris Harrison got fired.
Yes.
She was the sacrificial lamb.
Totally,
and
I
it was
agree.
Disgusting.
That's exactly what I said.
What the show did to her and Matt. They both almost
made them have to fake that they weren't together.
Correct. It was
they
disgusting.
They literally could not be together in the public eye because they were like, she went to this party at 18 and therefore you're black. You can't be with her. And I was like, this is 2021
all because Chris
or whatever.
Harrison ran his mouth and
defended her.
Sure, but
whatever.
Whatever. I don't want to relitigate that, but and I can tell you that he wasn't going to get fired for that. I know that for sure.
Who was not going to get fired? Chris
Harrison. He got fired because he lawyered up. And
after that interview.
And had he not lawyered up, I know that ABC was not planning on firing him initially after the whole Rachel, Lindsay
Did they ever approach you to take over?
No, but I did pitch myself as hey, I had a meeting.
There was a time where you showed up and did half a show or something.
I hosted a date once. That's pretty typical.
I don't know. I remember I came on the show and I said Chris Harrison should be shaking in his boots.
Oh, thanks.
Because
I did the same thing you did. It was the same season.
I felt like you did more than that. I felt like you ran more of a show.
I never thought they would be interested in me, but I was just hey, I kind of pitched myself, and I knew it was and Rob Mills was very gracious to take a meeting with me and make me feel like it was a real meeting. But I think they had already landed on Jesse.
Okay,
and I honestly think Jesse's was the perfect replacement because when it comes to what that show is, he's great.
Yeah.
So I love that Rachel's kind of getting the Ariana Madix treatment in a way where she's getting this these new campaigns because after the AFR back in the day, she didn't get anything. She didn't get to enjoy the experience of what it was like to be the winner of a show. She got treated it was again disgusting what happened to her. So I love that she is now getting all this. That all being said, the way that Matt is being treated because he lacked a little tact during a breakup, it's Jesus Christ, it's when you compare the Paige DeSorbo and Craig breakup versus this, it's show me the difference.
Right.
Definitely I think Matt was weird about it. The whole prayer, it was all kind of weird, but I don't know. I honestly think the nicest thing you can do to someone you're breaking up with is make it easy to hate them. Make it easy to hate you. It's real selfish when you're I don't know, we'll see what happens in the future. And I still love you. Don't tell me you still love me when you're breaking up with me. It's just confusing as fuck. I don't know. I don't know.
And in doing that, by making it so, it was horrible.
I don't think he deserves praise for it. He lacked tact. It was weird and kind of heartless and selfish and I don't know. But
yeah, she's definitely going to be.
He broke up with her.
That girl that 6 months or a year from now. And I think, other Alex Cooper said this too when she interviewed her. You're going to look back and you're going to really realize, what was I doing? I was making myself into a peg, trying to get into a circle or whatever it is. Also, really, I don't think that she, was getting what she needed from it.
Think about the trauma she must have experienced during that whole AFR experience.
What's AFR?
After the final rose.
Oh, okay. All right.
The whole thing where they crucified her.
Yeah, and then he goes, will you give her a hug? And he's like, no.
Yeah. I mean, it was disgusting. So imagine that trauma that she had to face.
Yeah.
Like, I would imagine there was probably a lot of fear of her leaving that relationship for fear of what people might say about her if she were to break up with Matt. And God forbid the accusations people would throw her way if she left that relationship. So I'm assuming in a lot of ways she maybe felt stuck or didn't know what to do. I mean, it was
I want to know what's going to happen with his eating thing, with eating all the food, because it was always her perfect little cute face that would keep me watching the video. It is her being like,
he'll have to rediscover himself.
Yeah, and I felt like she was just being used just like a mom uses her kid in the family vlogs and knows that if the kid is in the thumbnail, it gets more views than herself. And I mean, they went back and like, they were like, she's like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Like they're like at a Mexican hotel. And he goes, you want to go swimming? She goes, maybe after lunch. And then he just pushes her in the water. And like just those little insensitive things that like, you look back and she didn't love it. She didn't love it then. She didn't think it was funny then.
He probably wasn't a great boyfriend. And she probably didn't feel confident enough to stand up for herself at times because of the power dynamic in their relationship and all that shit that she had to go through.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right, what about The Bachelor now? Are you watching it at all now? Do you still cover it at all?
Yeah, we still cover it, definitely less and less. I mean, like, it's just not what it used to be. Now they get the hometowns in 6 weeks versus 9. That's less episodes. It's like, I don't know, what are we doing?
The budget just got cut.
I got no budget. I don't know. Like, I thought it was back after Joey, you know, and then, I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. There's too much other great content out there in terms of competition shows.
I think the
hard to watch Love Island and then come back and watch The Bachelor and be like, I'm not as entertained.
Right.
You got movie night on Love Island where they're like maybe fucking someone else, and now it's just like you interrupted, on The Bachelors. Who gives a fuck? And
it's all the same verbiage. Like they never like really updated the move. And for me,
that's the thing. They don't.
Like the guys. I mean, now it's just all too young. It's like coming too close to my kids' own ages. But even in the last 5 years, it's like they changed it. Like I was into like that kind of like frat type of guy, and then it just wasn't. And I was like, I can't even watch this. And I lost interest.
And they have internal drama going on over there, and I don't know if you've heard that stuff.
No,
it's
can you share?
I mean, it was like a Game of Thrones. A lot of people I used to know who ran the show have been like kind of pushed out or left or gotten fired. And like, there's a lot of shakeups when, Mike Fleiss, who by the way is like still very much involved, but no one really talks about, but after he left and things like that, that's like a worst kept secret. And I think there's just a lot of hurt feelings and it's a lot of politics. And
are the Golden and Golden Bachelorette coming back?
Yeah.
Those are.
I think that's right now their bread and butter. I mean, it's crazy the fact that they have paused Bachelorette. That's not a good sign for the franchise itself. But I think part of it has to do with they're trying to bring back Paradise. I think Paradise, they're trying to lean into that and kind of like capture like, what's going on at Love Island. And I think that's the closest thing to that. And then they have Golden franchise, which has been like their only real shining light recently. So I think they're leaning into that, and I guess we'll see. But
well, I mean, what a success regardless. Well, okay, everybody, if you don't know about your podcast, can you tell them?
It's the Viall Files. We're on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays most weeks. Definitely every Tuesday and Thursday for our reality recaps, and we talk a lot of reality TV and Bravo and pop culture.
We didn't even get
similar
to like
but different
of the stuff I had with you.
Well, Heather's going to come on our show, and we'll talk more. And it's so fun to see you.
We'll get into all the things that we didn't cover.
Thanks for having me on. I love your show. If I can pay you a compliment, there's not a lot of people out there whose like opinions and advice I listen to and respect, and yours is definitely one of them. I just like, having a family and me and Natalie getting married and having a kid. Like at the end of the day, like you look like you have an amazing life and you have this family that like, it's all you really care about, other than, and I like, that's what I want. That's what Natalie and I want. And like, your advice matters to me,
Oh, it is just so sweet. No, I love it. I'm so happy that you guys are doing so well.
If you ever get a chance to meet Justin Baldoni, I promise you'll never think that Blake Lively could have fallen in love with him.
Okay. Wow.
Have you ever been like gotten the ick from great looking men being in the same room after like they just kind of are themselves for 10 minutes?
I said I feel like he might be like a close talker.
He's far worse than that. He's just a creep.
All right. That's your opinion.
That is definitely my opinion. Don't sue me, Justin Baldoni.
Thank you. Everybody go to heathermcdonald.net. Enjoy my Patreon. Thank you.